वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सच्चिदानन्दरूपाय विश्वोत्पत्त्यादिहेतवे तापत्रयविनाशाय श्रीकृष्णाय वयं नुमः। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om, salutations to all. So we were seeing the portion in sixth canto, which is the background of Vritrasura. So Indra had killed Vritrasura, and before that we saw that how Vritrasura gave so much of knowledge to Indra, and as a result Parikshit Raja asked that how is it that Vritrasura has so much of bhakti for Bhagavan. So it was said, so Shukadevji replied about his backstory, that he was a king called Chitraketu, and then he had 10 million wives, but he could not have a son, a child itself. And as a result, he was very unhappy, and finally, by Angira Rishi's blessings and a Havan, etc., that was done, Kritadyuti conceived, and they had a son. They were very attached to the son, and the other wives were jealous of this, and so this child was poisoned and the child died. Now both of them are lamenting, and that is the time when Angira Rishi comes there, Narad Rishi also comes there, and Naradji, what does he do? He gives them the knowledge, no doubt, but he also brings, in this chapter 16 we saw that how he brings, after giving knowledge about life is temporary, relationships are temporary and all that, Naradji brings that jiva in the view of all and tells the jiva to re-enter the body so that they can, the parents, their sorrow can be, mitigated, and they can live happily, and the jiva also can enjoy in the kingdom and all that. So now we saw in the 16th chapter that portion where the jiva is addressing. And the jiva says, these are my parents of only this life. Before that, I have been in so many other bodies. And so I've been wandering by my karma in the wombs of devatas, animals, humans, all that. So in which birth were these persons my father and mother? The jiva doesn't even recognize them as father and mother of the just previous birth. Because it's a series of births now. And he's not remembering sequentially which birth, when, who was, what relationship. So he's asking, these are my parents of which birth? I've been going through so many births. And so he says nobody is permanently related. And people become friends, relatives, enemies, well-wishers, or indifferent, or envious, etc. In that context, one has to know that, sometimes because of the karma, the sons who are born, or even children for that matter, they could be anybody. So it is said sometimes the child who is born is an enemy who is born as the child, who has to settle some scores, and so the child doesn't listen, doesn't care, hurts the parents, destroys things, brings bad name. That is called Shatru. In this context, because it is a son, we say it is Shatru Putra. Shatru who has come in the form of Putra. Second type of son who is born is um, Udasina Putra. So, this Udasin Putra is indifferent, lazy, lethargic, doesn't do anything. Again, see, all the four are because of some karmic connection. It doesn't happen just randomly. No matter what the parent is trying, this son is not getting dynamic, depends only on the parent, doesn't do much. And so the parents, what do they think? They think that what typically a lot of people think, इसकी शादी करा दो so सब ठीक हो जाएगा. So if the wife comes, then there will be four people. I mean, four hands to serve. And that wife will make him capable. But they forget that with the four hands, there are four legs also. So this Udasina Putra sometimes leaves the parents and goes very Udasin now towards the parents. The wife says, I will not marry. If you are going to live with the parents, I will not marry. So condition for marriage itself will be you separate from the parents. I want to live independently. Udasina Putra. Third Putra is Rinanubandhi. Some very powerful, what we call as the debt, Rina, of some past life is there that he has to, you know, repay. It could be anything. By debt, we don't mean only money. Some obligation is there, some very strong service that he may have to do, or emotional reciprocation he has to do, or it could be financial also. Any type of karmic debt which is there, which is very strong. All the four are based on karma only, as I said, but this one is much stronger. So sometimes one may find that so if some financial kind of debt is there, then you find that the father has taken some loan and now the son has to pay. Sometimes it can be the parent is going through some very terrible sickness, and the child has to go on taking care of, and it takes away a lot of the time, energy, resources, money, everything. So sometimes it is like that, some very strong debt is there. Rinanubandhi Putra. Fourth is Sevak Putra, who is born with the bhav of, with the attitude that some seva should be done of the parents, and that person takes care, does whatever seva is required. The main connection is with Bhagavan. And so different types of sons who are there. Naradji says, your son who was born was an enemy of your past life. It is good he has died. For whatever karmic reasons, he was born after a long time. They didn't have a son. Now his son was born and he died. He was some Shatru of that past life. Finished. Don't worry about it. He is born, he is dead, gone now. He caused some pain by his death, no doubt. That is also because of their attachment, the parents' attachment to the son. And when the Jiva is saying this, which birth parents are these? I don't even recognize. That will hurt more. So that's why it is this Shatru Putra who is giving pain even after death. When he has gone, he doesn't want to look back. And they are crying for him. But he doesn't want even to look back. This is Maya, this is Samsar. How much we run behind people, mine. And they run away. Whatever karma is there till then they last. After that, bye bye. They won't even look back. And one thinks, oh, I did so much for them. Yeah, good only, karma got over. Now go back to Bhagavan, connect to Bhagavan again, or kya? Otherwise, the Maya will keep us bound like this only. One thing or the other, go on. One, we stop, some relationship, something else starts. Or there are already 20 relationships in which I am attached. One has dropped, other 19 are anyway there. So the mind is somehow consoling itself, and from that it has tried and diverted itself to other 19. Array, the whole point is to go back to Bhagavan, to connect to the Lord and to strengthen our bhakti. That's why Naraji gave him that knowledge. He told the mantra also. He gave him that mantra to worship Adi Sesha or Sankarshan Bhagavan that we saw in the previous chapter end. So this Jiva, when he comes back and he says all this, which janma and parent, which janma are these parents, and if that question is okay, if the enemy is born as the son to us, how is it that we have affection towards that enemy? Because with enemy there's some enmity, na dvesha will be there. How is there affection that is there in the mind of the parents? So that's why is the example given here is that just as the gold and other commodities pass among people in due course of transaction, the jiva wanders into various bodies with various fathers and mothers. We have that attachment. Like this example is of gold. So when gold is there with us, then we say it is mine. It goes to the enemy, it becomes the enemy's gold. Till it is with us, we think it is mine, 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 and then for whatever some transaction it goes there. The gold is not having any loyalty towards the person. In that example, there's a limitation, obviously, because that gold is inert. But that is the point given here. That jiva also goes from one janma to another, so has so many different parents, and in some life, that jiva must have had some kind of an enmity and is born to settle that, to give pain. But the parents have that kind of a karma, no? That the jiva has to be born to them as the parent, as the child, and they will be parents. So the parent is there, the natural affinity will be there. But why is it not there from the child side? Because the child was some shatru and came only to give certain pain, and yeah, of course, everything has a mixture. So some pleasure also he gave when he was born, but mainly it is pain. And so that's why he says here that when there is mamatva, then that sorrow and everything will start. So one is karmic sorrow that comes because that jiva has some karma to settle, because you have some enemy in the past life. That brings sorrow. Other is the attachment of the parent towards that jiva, brings sorrow, because when that jiva has departed, now they are miserable. So he says that in this life also relationships are temporary, but not remembering this fact. Everybody knows, but we don't remember, we don't abide in that, and we try to become possessive. We don't want that person to change, we don't want that person to go away. We want, certain things that we get attached to, they should remain like that only. So one forgets, so one doesn't operate out of that clarity and detachment. And so he says that one becomes possessive, and the body is perishable. So at some point the body will drop. It all depends on the karma of the jiva, karma of the parents, all that complex web of karma it is. But the jiva goes from one body to another. The jiva is not destructible. The jiva is nitya in a relative sense, because it keeps taking more and more bodies. So that's why he says that jiva who has entered the body is nitya, eternal. And niraham kritaha. It does not have a specific identity. That specific identity as the son of this parent is only when one enters into the body. The moment one has departed out of the body, again that identity is not there. As per the next level, whatever the Sanchit karma is ready to fructify, the jiva will go ahead as to whichever yoni and whichever loka. So, only evam yonigato jiva sanityo nirahankritah यावद् यत्रोप लभ्येत तावत् स्वत्वं हि तस्य tat. So that's what we discussed just now. Till the jiva is identified in this body, then there is my father, my son, and my daughter, and my wife, and my mother, and all that. After that, what? One has departed. Then that mamatva does not remain. Again goes ahead. Again, some karmic connection has to be fulfilled. The ready karma is ready to fructify. Again, these jivas will come together. That will go on. That Naradji also gave that example earlier. Grains of sand flowing together in water. That's the example he gave. So then the jiva is nitya and is actually the is one with Bhagavan. Not knowing that oneness is what the confusion has started. And so Bhagavan is nitya. What is the nature of Bhagavan? All that was explained. So that having said that, then what happened? The jiva departed. See that. Having spoken thus, the spirit of the departed prince disappeared. And all of them, they gave up the mourning for him and cutting the ties of attachment what they had. Shoka moha bhayarditam. Then Balagnyo vriditas tatra balahatya hata prabhaha balahatya vratam cheruhu brahmanair yan nirupitam yamunayam maharaja smarantyo dvijabhashitam. Now all these other wives apart from Kritadyuti who had done this, conspiracy of poisoning the child and then killing the child, now they are repentant also. And so as per the Brahmanas, what they have directed to them, they go to the banks of Yamuna, they do some tapas and they do the atonement for their sin. And the child is, meanwhile, is cremated also. And they all remember also what Angira Rishi said about relationships and the world being material and temporary, etc. Now Vairagya has risen in them. And Chitraketu, he did what Naradji said. He did the upasana of Bhagavan Sankarshana and he came to realize the self. So here it is said that Saitham Pratibuddhatma. Pratibuddhatma means he is realized the self. Because of the words of both Angira Rishi and Narad Rishi, so this Chitraketu rose from the deceptive well of transmigration. And the example given here is like an elephant comes out of the mud. Elephant wood from the mire of a lake. Having performed his ablutions in the Yamuna with due ceremony and gone through the sacred rites accomplished with water, senses entirely subdued, he bowed in silence at the feet of both Angira Rishi and Narad Rishi. Now, Narad Rishi taught the specific mantra. Earlier he said, I will give you the mantra by which in 7 days you will have darshan. 15th chapter he said at the end. Now comes that specific mantra. See that. Atha tasmai prapannaya bhaktaya prayatatmane Bhagawan Narada Prito Vidyametam uvachaha. So to him who prostrated, Naradji now gave the mantra. What is that mantra you see? Om Namastubhyam Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha. This is the full mantra. This is the mantra which he gave to Chitraketu, saying that you chant this mantra and you will have darshan of Sankarshan Bhagwan and will realize the truth. Namo Vijnana Matraya Paramananda Murtaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Nivritta Dvaita Drishtaye. So this is where it is. See, the meaning of this mantra, first is the main mantra is Om Namastubhyam Bhagavate Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Niruddhaya Namah Sankarshanaya Cha. This is the full mantra. Meaning of that is salutations to the divine Vasudeva, who is presiding deity of the intellect, and denoted by the mystical syllable Om. Then obeisance to you, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshana, presiding deity over the reason, mind, and ego. If you remember Bhagavatam second chapter, it comes. These are four presiding deities of our Antakarna. Man, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankar. Now, he says, we contemplate on you, glory to you, who are absolute consciousness and embodiment of supreme bliss, who revel in your own self and are perfectly tranquil, and whose eye is ever turned away from duality. This is the meaning of the second line after the main mantra. Namo Vijnana Matraya Paramananda Murtaye Atma Ramaya Shantaya Nivritta Dvaita Drishtaye. That is a glorification of Bhagavan. The main mantra is in verse number 18, 16th discourse, verse number 18. The rest of it, 19, etc., is the praise, is the stuti of that Bhagavan Sankarshana. So then he says that victory to you who have kept aloof by the very realization of your blissful character, all disturbances like raga and dvesha, which are caused by Maya. So this goes on. So he praises Bhagavan Sankarshana in various ways. Victory to you, the mighty controller of the senses, having the cosmos for your body. May he protect us, he who is absolute consciousness, without any name or form, and lies beyond the cause and effect, and who shines all by himself when speech along with the mind has withdrawn, failing to comprehend him. See that. Now what is the point here? Sagun Sakar Darshan is one aspect, but that will not remove ignorance completely. Nirgun Nirakar Tattva Jnan of Brahman as essentially our nature is what will remove the root cause of sorrow. Sagun Sakar Darshan is no doubt very important step, and it comes only through deep level of purity and surrender, etc. But that is not the ultimate. That's the point. That's why this Atma Gyan is being spoken about here. That he who is absolute consciousness. See this. Vachas yuparate prapya ya eko manasa saha anama rupaschin matraha sovyadnaha sadasat paraha yasminnidam yataschedam tishtatyapyeti jayate mrinmayeshviva mrijjatihi tasmaite brahmane namaha. So salutation to that Brahman in whom the whole creation rises, stays, into whom it goes back, just like the mud. All the pots, pitchers, cups, saucer, everything, that they will rise in the mud, they stay in the mud, they go back to mud. Mud alone is actually Nityaka Ityeva Satyam. So in that way, you are that Brahman. So Sankarshan Devata is one form, or Adi Sesha is one form. But that same form is none other than Brahman, and the whole Srishti comes out from that, appears into that, stays in that, goes back into that. Meaning it alone is. Means Srishti is a mithya. Because mud only we are seeing in the form of pot and calling it as pot. But it is only mud. So we say with the mud, the pot is rising in the mud, staying in the mud, going back into mud. But actually there is nothing called pot. There is only mud. That is the Advaitic truth, and so he says that has to be realized. Yanna sprishanti na viduhu mano buddhindriyasavaha antarbahishcha vitatam vyomavat tannatosmyaham. I salute that Supreme who is like space, who is not affected by anything, even the mind, senses, speech. They can't grasp it, and it is inside, outside, everywhere. It is not limited by any form. See, this one thing one has to remember. So many times people quote Hindus don't worship form at all, and they will start quoting Natasya Pratima Asti. That's an Upanishad mantra. Array, that is it said in a context. Meaning the ultimate absolute truth doesn't have a form. But doesn't mean we don't have forms. There are, of course, so many forms. And Vedic descriptions are there. Because somewhere this notion has gone around, people think that these forms have been created later on only by people and they are not real. They are created by human beings just so that some concentration can be achieved. But it is not like that. Same infinite consciousness using the power of Maya becomes Ishvara, takes up specific forms, and those are the forms described in the Vedas, and then that's what we worship, and that is required for Upasana also, and to make the mind single pointed, to bring out Bhakti, Sharanagati, purity, all that. With such a mind, then one does contemplation on the Nirgun Nirakar Tattva, which is same Brahman. And both these are very important. Bhakti without knowledge of the Absolute is incomplete. And knowledge one will not get without bhakti. I am talking about ultimate knowledge of the self. One will never get unless the bhakti is there, Sharanagati is there, ego has become less. So they will have to go together, bhakti and jnana. And then Sagun Sakar will lead to Nirgun Nirakar. One should not stop with only Sagun Sakar, and one should not aim directly only for Nirgun Nirakar. One requires both. So here we see that Naradji gave him that mantra and also taught him Nirgun Nirakar Tattva. So through the mantra he can purify the mind, and you will see ahead. He will do the tapasya, etc., and he will have darshan of Bhagavan. Then Bhagavan also will give him that same knowledge again of his true nature. So the whole point is this only, that somewhere if we don't understand this clearly, we think that the ultimate mukti is I will eternally be a servant of Bhagavan, I will go to the loka of Bhagavan, I will sit near Bhagavan, I will be looking like Bhagavan. Those are all on the way. That's not ultimate. In Dvaita, they may say that is the ultimate. You will be Nitya Sevaka Bhagavan. So many examples in Bhagavatam are coming which explains so clearly that this Salokya, Sarupya, Samipya, etc. are not the ultimate. The ultimate is only Jivan Mukti or Krama Mukti. It will come ahead in the next canto. Prahladji's story will come. Now, in that again one will see the Jaya and Vijay, how they became arrogant and then they fell because of the curse, and then they only took birth as, Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Ravan, Kumbhakarna, Shishupal, Dantavaktra. And even after being Dwarpals of Bhagavan, they fall. Why? Because their ego came into them, which means that that state is not ultimate. It is no doubt a state where punya has been done, so they have attained that loka. But it is not the ultimate. Ultimate is Jivan Mukti, realize oneness with Brahman, drop all identification with the BMI. This is not me. Simply holding on to this, now all the other attachments and going through cycles and cycles of birth and death. So Naradji gave him both this knowledge of the self, which will give ultimate liberation, and that same self appears as Sankarshan Bhagwan also. So then he says this about the body, the indriyas, the vital air, the mind, the intellect. These are all stirred into activity only because of this consciousness. And this consciousness is realized when one transcends the three states of awareness: waking, dream, deep sleep. Because the jiva goes in these three. Atma is beyond the three, is a substratum of all the three and the beyond the three. And so an example he gives that even as iron which is not fully heated cannot burn, in that way he says only that which is enlivened by consciousness, that body, mind, intellect, prana, etc., can function. Otherwise, it will not function. And it is that same consciousness only which becomes the jiva in the waking state, dream state, deep sleep, and as though is going through all this. In the Upanishad, it comes Puratraye Kridati Yas Sajivaha. Puratraya means these three cities. Which are the three cities? Waking, dream, deep sleep. So, to go beyond that is realization. And Narad is giving him that knowledge. Then, the 25th one again is a mantra. So, two mantras he has given. Okay, one earlier we saw. Now, the second one. Om Namo Bhagavate Mahapurushaya Mahanubhavaya Mahavibhutipataye Sakala Satvata Parivridha Nirakara Kamala Kamala Kudmalo Kudmalo Palalita Charanaravinda Yugala Parama Parameshthin Namaste. This is full mantra. What does that mean? Hail to Lord Sankarshana, denoted by the mystic syllable Om, and possessed of the supreme might, the spouse of goddess Mahalakshmi, who embodies in herself the highest glory and fortune. Hail to you, the supreme ruler of the universe, whose lotus-like feet are fondly and softly kneaded by all the hosts of principal devotees with the lotus buds of their hands. So if anybody wants to do upasana, these are the two mantras of Sankarshan Bhagavan. Now, Naraji, when he taught all this, with the help of, with Angira Rishi, he returned. Now Shukadevji continues, and he says that where did they go? They went to Brahmalok. Both Angira Rishi and Naraji, they went to Brahmalok. Now, what did Chitraketu do? He repeated this prayer and the mantras that were taught for 7 days. Chitraketustu vidyam tam yatha narada bhashitam dharayamasa saptaham abhaksha susamahitaha. So he lived only on water. Up means water. Abhaksha means only living on water. 7 days only water he lived and did this japa and contemplated on the Nirguna Tattva, etc. And at the end of 7 nights, what happened? He attained the loka of Vidyadharas. Means he didn't die, but he became in charge. That's what is said here. Attained permanent lordship of the Vidyadharas by the virtue of the prayer being repeated by him. Then, in a few days, the course of his mind having been fully illumined through the repetition of the same prayer, Chitraketu betook himself to the holy feet of Bhagawan Shesha, the adored of all gods. So he had darshan of Adi Sesha. What did he see? He saw the Lord in a form. This is Shukadevji describing. After that, Chitraketu will describe. So he saw Bhagavan in a form white as a lotus fiber, clad in blue, adorned with a brilliant diadem, armlets, girdle, and wristlets, marked with a cheerful countenance and reddish eyes, and surrounded by rings of Siddheshwaras, who are those who have siddhis. And in this context can also mean Jivan Muktas, who have the ultimate Siddhi is Jivan Mukti. Now, this is in one shloka, he gives this description of the form of Bhagavan. Mrinala Shidivasa Samspurat Kirita Keyurakatitra Kankanam Prasanna Vaktrarunalocanamritam Dadarsha Siddheshwara Mandalai Prabhum. So this is what he saw. As a result of this darshan, what happened? All the sins are wiped out by the sight of Bhagavan and his mind became clear, free from all impurities. And Chitraketu approached Bhagavan with great intensity of devotion, with tears of love in his eyes, hair standing on the end. He bowed down to Bhagavan. And he repeatedly, with his tears, is as though washing the feet of Bhagavan. And he wants to say something, but there's a lot of devotion in his heart, so his voice is choked. He's not able to, for a long time, extol Bhagavan in a proper loud voice. Then he quietens his mind down and recovers his faculty of speech. And in the following words, that receptor of the universe, whose divine body stands described in the scriptures such as Pancharatra, treating of devotion, he starts praising Bhagavan. So Chitraketu says, this is one stuti from verse number 34 up to this 48 is this stuti of Chitraketu. So what does he say? This is his praise now. So Chitraketu says that, O unconquerable Lord, you are certainly conquered by devotees who have control of the mind and the senses. You also conquer them and mercifully give yourself to them who desire no material profit. Though in his Nirgun Nirakar Roop, Bhagavan is unknowable in the sense that not knowable as a separate object, but one can definitely realize the Lord as the self. So in that way is unknowable, but those who have surrendered to him, he also gives himself to them. So that's what he says here, that you who bestow your very self on those who adore you, because you are exceedingly compassionate. Then he says that this evolution, the maintenance and dissolution of the universe are a sport on your part, and the creators of the universe, Brahma, etc., are so many parts of the cosmic being. So here the Adi Sesha Bhagavan is not only seen as the serpent on whom Mahavishnu is reclining, but here he is seen as Parabrahma only. And that's why here it is said that the creators of the universe, Brahma and the other lords of creation, are so many parts of the cosmic being, who is only a part manifestation of yours. The cosmic being is a part manifestation of Sankarshan Devata. Yet in vain do they try to outshine one another due to the consciousness of their being an independent Lord. Meaning, some of the Devatas, they try to think that they are greater than Bhagavan, and so they try to outshine and prove who is greater. You exist before the appearance of the atom and at the end after the dissolution of the infinite universe, and likewise you pervade everything in between also. You are without beginning, middle, or the end. That which is constant at the beginning as well as at the end of the phenomenal existences is constant in the middle too. See, this is the principle even in Vedanta that is explained. Adavante picha sattvanam yadhruvam tadevantara lepi. What is there in the middle, in the beginning, what is there at the beginning and in the end is also there in the middle, because otherwise how it will continue till the end. So, meaning creation, and dissolution. Bhagavan only is responsible. So who is in between, meaning who is appearing as all this also is Bhagavan only. So that's what is the point. This egg-shaped universe, which further resembles a bud inasmuch as it is enveloped by 7 sheets in the shape of earth, etc., each outer sheet being 10 times thicker than the one enclosed by it, is swimming within you like an atom along with countless millions of eggs, meaning many Brahmandas are there. If we read in English translation, under they have translated as egg, Brahmanda. So we have to remember it is multiverse, not universe. Multiple universes are there. Each one of them is like one atom. That's the point here. See that. In the 37th shloka it is said here, Saptabhir dasha gunottaraihi andakoshaha yatra patati anukalpaha sahanda koti bhi tad anantaha. So that consciousness is infinite. Countless universes are there. Imagine the cosmic being is a part of this Sankarshan Deta. The cosmic being meaning the manifest part. The unmanifest part is much more. The whole universe itself is like what is said in Purusha Suktam, 1/4. Adosya Vishwa Bhutani Tripadasya Amritam Devi. 3/4 are unmanifest. So that whole creation which is so massive, which we see only one universe, like that multiples of universes are there. They all are like one, each universe is like one atom in the cosmic being who is a part of the infinite consciousness. I imagine. So that's why he says here that countless millions of the other eggs. So you are spoken as infinite. They are really brutes in human form who in their thirst for the pleasure of sense worship the gods, but not you. Meaning those who worship the devatas, smaller powers. In the Vedic times and other times they used to worship devatas and get their blessings and fulfill their desires. Today some people worship devatas. By devata we mean Indra, Varuna, Vayu, Kuber, all these. Or we worship people in power. Somebody in the government, somebody in the bureaucracy, somebody is political leader, somebody some big industrialist, some nothing wrong in being having contacts with any of them, but forgetting Bhagwan and thinking that these people and depending on them for one's success, happiness, etc., that is delusion. So that's what he says here, that they are brutes in human form who in their thirst for pleasure of the senses worship the gods, but not you the Supreme. The blessings enjoyed by them perish. After a certain time they will perish. The blessings enjoyed by them as gifts from those gods perish after the end of those gods, even as blessings enjoyed by the dependents of a royal house automatically come to an end after the extinction of that house. Entreaties are made to you who are possessed of a body who is all consciousness and not a product of 3 gunas, even for the pleasure of the sense. Do not make for rebirth any more than fried seeds put forth shoots. See, he says that's his prayer. He says, please, how the seeds which get roasted or fried, then they will not sprout again. Like that, worship of yours can free a person from the cycle of birth and death. And they are caused because of 3 gunas. The cycle of birth and death goes on because of identification with the jiva, then with the body, and the play of 3 gunas is there. So we see the variety in the world. So he says, those who worship you will go beyond this. While you are entirely free from these 3 gunas, and therefore people adoring you, even with an interested motive, meaning even if they do sakama karma, but they worship you, eventually, of course, they will go beyond the 3 gunas. Such being the value of adoring you, even for the attainment of sensuous enjoyments, you surpass all on such occasions when you preach the flawless Bhagavata Dharma, which even sages reveling in the self and having nothing to call their own resort to for attainment of bhakti. Bhagavad Dharma means complete surrender to Bhagavan. What we say na kayena vacha manasendriyeva buddhyatmanava prakrite svabhavat karomi adyat sakalam parasmai narayanayeti samarpayami. That attitude of complete surrender at all levels, that is called Bhagavad Dharma. All the stories etc. are to bring that bhav of devotion, sharanagati, na, so that we do everything with the remembrance I am doing it for Bhagavan, and in fact Bhagavan only the karta. What was said here, na? Karta, dharta, harta is all Bhagavan only. To act out of that is called Bhagavad Dharma. And Bhagavan facilitates that for the devotees. And of course, yeah, if the devotee wants artha, kama, etc., also the Bhagavan will bless them with that also. But the state here of bhakti is called Pancham Purushartha, is beyond liberation also. Artha, Kama, Dharma, Moksha, Bhakti or Para Bhakti is supposed to be the fifth state, beyond this four. Differential notions such as I and you, mine and yours do not disturb the mind of men treading on this path of Bhakti and Sharanagati, as they do in the case of those following other cults, meaning those who are not worshipping the Supreme and they worship some lower power, some Siddha Guru, some Mahatma here, or some kind of Devatas. Absolute state they may not attain. So, a ritual act which is performed by one having a differential outlook is indeed impure because of likes and dislikes, yields a perishable fruit and is fraught with sin. This is a limitation of karma. Why that has to be understood? Then one will have vairagya. Otherwise, the mind is so extroverted and running behind, expanding, doing this, achieving that, this many branches, that many franchises, this much profit, this much. It goes on. At some level, yes, some past karma, vasanas, etc. are there, one should exhaust, but it will not give mukti. So that's why he's saying the limitation of karma. And that he has said in brief here, but there's so many more limitations. What good can be expected either to oneself or to another, and what object can be gained through a ritual which is harmful to one's own self as well as to others? Meaning, when these rituals are done, one forgets Bhagavan. Then one thinks that this karma only will give karma phala and through that only I will attain mukti. That's a Mimamsaka standpoint of, the mantras of the Veda are so powerful that if you just chant the mantra, the Devata is bound to come and they have to bless you and then you will get whatever you seek. Na? From the lower powers, one can get quite a lot of whatever wealth, money, power, progeny, whatever one seeks. But it will all be perishable. And compared to that state of mukti which one can get as a human being, if one is only running behind these temporary things, so then he says that what will happen? Then you are harming yourself only. Um, and on the contrary, what people do, instead of using this human body to do sadhana to realize absolute, sometimes they do all this, pursuit of power, pleasure, etc. But some people even torture themselves in the name of tapasya. And Bhagavatam here, Naradji tells him, Chitraketu tells Bhagavan that people torture you also. See that. Pain is inflicted on you through self-mortification and sin is also incurred as well as your displeasure through persecution of another. So they torture themselves, they torture others also. How much ever one learns spirituality and all that, yet sometimes the rag and dvesh is so much, one talks very rudely, one hurts people, one backbites, one gossips, one may exploit, loot, cheat. So he says that this is how the world is, and they also torture themselves in the name of tapasya, which will bring up big ego also. Bhagwan called it a tamasic tapas in this Gita, in the 17th chapter it comes. Karshayanta sharirastham bhutagramam achetasaha mam chaivanta sharirastham tan vidya sura nischayan. Understand those people to be asuras only, who are torturing me in the name of being spiritual, and ego is going high. See that. Bhutagramam achetasaha. This body made up of five elements, they torture. And then they have ego about it also. And hence, he says that your point of view that people should attain the realization through Sharanagati, through Bhakti, through Nididhyasana, etc., with which, as a matter of fact, you preach the cult of devotion. The cult which is exclusively followed by the worthy who regard the multitudes of beings as their very own self is never belied. That will never get falsified, but people who follow them are few. It is not at all impossible that all the sins of men should be wiped out by your very sight. Darshana Bhagavan itself is enough to destroy all papa karmas. Which is why so many times one goes to that mandir and all the sacred places. We are not going to see only some stone. What are we going to have? Darshana Bhagavan. So that Bhagavad Bhav is in the mind. That feeling is I am having Darshana Bhagavan who is there, who is invoked. Prana Pratishtha is done and mantras are chanted and everyday worship is happening. So one is not going to see some stone, one is going to have Darshana Bhagavan, and that Darshana Bhagavan will destroy Papa Karma. The whole process also, if one has done sadhana sincerely, walking, or waiting and chanting Bhagwan's name and doing upasana, before you start the yatra, you do japa every day as a niyam, you live in brahmacharya, you follow the sattvic lifestyle and all that, that will also destroy so many papa karmas, raga, dvesha, vasanas, and then darshana Bhagwan will destroy. So he says this: it is not at all impossible that all the sins of men should be wiped out by your very sight. When it is known that even an outcast is freed from the bondage of birth and death by hearing your name only once, even by listening, if one can't even see form for whatever reason, the eyes are not there or vision is not there, even by listening to Bhagwan's name, all the sins will get destroyed. And here it is said just once, meaning with full bhav, if one hears only once. So many times our bhav is not full. We are chanting and we are saying Tera Turko Arpan Kya Lage Mera and all that. Tan Man Dhan Sab Tera, and these words are speaking, the mouth is speaking those words, but mind is somewhere else only. Sometimes little bit of surrender bhav also is there, but more major part of it is still thinking ये तो सब मेरा ही है. So not like that. With full attention, with full devotion, surrender, even once one takes Bhagwan's name, all sins are destroyed. One hears, not only takes, hears, he said. Therefore, O Lord, we now have all the impurities of our heart in the shape of sins and evil proclivities wiped off by your very sight. How could that which was predicted by the divine sage Narad be otherwise? All that is done by the people in this world is known to you. There is nothing in particular to be revealed to you, O Supreme Preceptor. Just as there is nothing to be shown to the sun by fireflies. So we are like fireflies. What will a firefly do? In front of the sun, what will it illumine? It can't do anything. That humility and surrender is required. So he goes on to say that hail to you, the Almighty God, the controller of the creation, maintenance and dissolution of the universe, the purest of the pure, whose true nature cannot easily be understood by the sensually minded, strivers due to their notion of difference. See how much Bhagavatam goes on talking about Advaita and goes on emphasizing ki because they have a duality, they will not be able to attain this understanding of the true nature and then abiding in that. Why? Because they think duality is real, Jagat is real, and ultimate is only going to a particular loka, that's all. Bhagavad very clearly says again and again, because it was written by Vedavyasji to strengthen bhakti and jnana and vairagya. So it will go on emphasizing this. The notion of difference is only the cause of suffering. The creators of the universe are active only when you are active. Inspire them with activity. The senses of perception are able to perceive their objects when you are disposed to perceive the objects. Meaning the enlivening happens in our heart by this BMI, by this consciousness, then this BMI functions. So you are that very consciousness. So my prostrations to you, and that's what he says, one with 1,000 heads. See that. Tasmai namo bhagavatestu sahasramurdhne. Now this is the stuti that he has done of Bhagawan Adi Sesha. In that he already said, I just your darshan or even hearing once, all the sins are wiped out, and Naradji already told about it and he taught, so glory to you. All that he explained. Now, what did Bhagavan bless him with? So Bhagavan told Chitraketu, Bhagavan Ananta, he told Chitraketu, the chief of the Vidyadharas, he attained that position, the chief of Vidyadharas, right? By doing that upasana. So he told him, I'm going to do this quickly, so this chapter will end. He says that you have fully achieved your purpose through the instruction which was given to you by sages Narada and Angira, and the prayer taught by them, and as well as by my darshan, meaning his life is accomplished, fulfilled. All the created beings are the same, he says. Bhagavan doesn't do partiality, and he is the same in terms of the self also is the same in all. As well as the creator of all the living beings, Ishvara is in the hearts of all, that also is same. The Veda and the transcendental reality both are my eternal bodies, he says. Shabda Brahma Param Brahma Mamobhe Shashwati Tanu. Aham vai sarvabhutane bhutatma bhutabhavanah. Loke vidatam atmanam lokam chatmani santatam. Ubhayam chamaya vyaptam mai chaivo bhayam kritam. So he says that a person should recognize his own self as extending through the whole universe, and the universe as comprised in his own self. Sarvabhutastam atmanam sarvabhutani chatmani. That's what sixth chapter also says. He should regard both his own self as the universe as pervaded by me. And even so, both are conceived in me. Just as a man dreams himself, the example of dream is given. In that, the individual dream characters as well as the entire dream world, both is a projection of the dreamer's mind. So that's the example given here. Using the power of Maya, Bhagavan is doing it. Like in the dream, using the power of dreaming, the dream creator projects the whole dream world and all the dream things and creatures. That way. The consciousness that runs through the state of deep sleep as well as through awakeness and continues even beyond the two in the case of Jiva, that is aware of both, is not none other than the Supreme Brahman. If therefore Brahma, which is my own essence, is forgotten, Brahman is forgotten by the Jiva, it comes to be viewed as different from the self, and because of this differentiation, the cycle of birth and death is continuing. He who fails to realize his own essential nature, even after attaining here birth in the human species, where one can hope to attain both knowledge and wisdom, Gnan and Vigyan, can get no peace of mind anywhere else. Meaning you go anywhere, if you don't realize the self, you will not get the peace of mind. Even as I said, go to lokas, be wherever you like, be nearest to Bhagavan also. Still, till Atmagyan is not there, one will not be free. See that. Remembering the hardships in all the worldly endeavor and the contrary results following from such an endeavor, and even so, the fearlessness consequent on withdrawal from worldly activity, a wise man should cease from volition in regard to such activity. How to realize the self? Get vairagya from the world and withdraw, especially during contemplation. Only doing the duties in the world, actions and responsibilities and duties towards people, etc., that is done with the attitude I am doing it for Bhagavan. Karma Yog Bhav. And then when one sits to meditate, withdraw the attention and think of consciousness that my nature is one with that. I am not this. A husband and wife generally undertake activities for happiness and for freedom from suffering. From such activities, however, ensures neither cessation of suffering nor attainment of happiness. Please remember this in a context, okay? This is given to Chitraketu, who already has seen through all that life. And he has darshan of Bhagavan and he's done the sadhana. To him, this is said here, in this context, that how in ignorance people think that, I will get married and then my life will be set. It will not happen. One may get some temporary pleasure, one may get companionship and all that, and unless one walks the path of dharma and turns within to realize the self, freedom cannot happen and cessation of sorrow will not happen. Thus, perceiving the contrary results met with by men who think themselves clever and realizing the subtle nature of the self which transcends the three states of the mind, rid of the pleasure of the sense, both of this world and of the next, through viveka and contented with one's knowledge and wisdom, one should cultivate devotion to me. That's what this means. Cultivate bhakti, cultivate vairagya. Having seen through this temporary nature of this whole life and knowing that self is the goal, one should work towards getting vairagya and then cultivate bhakti. See, earlier also it was said in this context only about the rarity of human birth, and that's what Bhagavan is concluding with also. So, to realize the oneness of the Supreme Spirit and the individual soul, the Jivatma Aikya is what one has to realize. And that is the sole interest deserving to be known by every means by men whose intellect has acquired acuteness through concentration. That's the purpose of all spiritual sadhana and yoga. Swartha sarvatmanagneyo yat paratmaika darshanam. Swartha here does not mean selfishness. It means that which is the best for the human being is this, to see oneness alone. Tvametat shraddhaya rajan pramatto vacho mama apramatto vacho mama jnana vijnana sampanno dharayan ashu siddhyasi. So Bhagavan assured him that you have heard what Naradji said, and then this Upadesh what Bhagavan himself gave. He says, carefully bearing in the mind and acting up to this exhortation of mind with reverence, O Chitraketu, you will soon acquire true knowledge and wisdom and attain perfection. Earlier he became the king of Vidyadharas, but chief of Vidyadharas, but that is not sufficient. Ultimate Atmagyan has to be realized. So he says, you will attain. Follow this instruction and you will attain. Everywhere you will see the Upadesh Bhagavan gives and Jiva has to put in the effort to realize the truth. There is no touching, mukti, drishti, mukti, all that. Jivan mukti cannot happen like that. Some temporary things can happen like that. Some powers can be given like that. But Jivan mukti, each one has to do. So Bhagavan says you will attain. You follow this instruction and you will attain. And having said this, Bhagavan disappeared from that place. Now Chitraketu has got the darshan, got the blessing of Bhagavan. Then what happened? How did he become Vritra? So there's one curse that he goes through, because of which he is born as Vritra. That we will see in the next chapter. But today we will stop here.
प्रिया प्रीतम की मंगल प्रीति रीति धूम की मंगल कांति हसनी दसगन की मंगल मुरली दीना धुन की मंगल आरती मंगल बनिक त्रिभंगी हरि की मंगल सेवा सब सहचर की मंगल सिर चंद्रिका मुकुट की मंगल छवि नयन में अटकी मंगल आरती पभी अंग अंग की मंगल गौर श्याम रंग की मंगल अति कटि पियरे पट की मंगल चितमणि नागर नट की मंगल आरती मंगल शोभा कमल नयन की मंगल माधुरी मृदुल पैन की मंगल वृंदावन मद अटकी मंगल क्रीडन जमुना तट की मंगल आरती मंगल चरण अरुण तरुवन की मंगल करणी भगति हरिजन की मंगल जुगल प्रिया बावन की मंगल श्री राधा जीवन की मंगल आरती प्रिया प्रीतम की मंगल प्रीति रीति डोल की मंगल आरती मंगल आरती राधावर कृष्णचंद्र भगवान की जय। ओम न तत्र सूर्यो भाति न चंद्र तारकम् नेमा विद्युतो भान्ति कुतोऽयम् अग्निः तमेव भान्तमनुभाति सर्वं तस्य भासा सर्वमिदं विभाति। सद्गुरुनाथ महाराज की।
A doubt after fourth Purushartha is moksha, the final and highest Purusha pursuit. Why Bhakti considered is fifth Purushartha? So, the reason why it is called as fifth Purushartha is to only say that Bhakti is glorious than Mukti. In which context? The cycle of birth and death. People think of Bhakti, Mukti as freedom from cycle of birth and death. And of course, that can happen technically when Atmagyan happens, and Atmagyan is not devoid of bhakti by itself. But to say that even after getting mukti, a person who is a Jivan Mukta is really a devotee. He is the best devoted servant of Bhagavan. That is called Jnanottara Bhakti, where the devotee is like Hanumanji, where the devotee knows oneness also, yet there is a Dvaita Bhav which is maintained of Bhakta and Bhagavan, of Sevak and Savior, or whichever other form. Priya, Priyatam, Putra, and Mata, Pita, whatever it may be. So that bhakti is considered greater, glorious, because uh, that idea, when it is there in the mind, ki I am one with Bhagwan, yet I am a devoted servant. So even with that knowledge, if one takes birth again because of Bhagwan's will, not because of one's baggage, one is not bound. Dvaita gets falsified completely, and so that Jnanotar Bhakti is considered as Pancham Purusharth. And the idea also is um, so that we develop bhakti in our heart, no matter which path we are following, whether it is Vedantic path, Jnana Marg, or Raja Yoga Marg, or Karma Marg, or Bhakti Marg. Bhakti is most essential. Otherwise, people think, I don't want bhakti. I will follow path of Vedanta and I will realize. I will follow Ashtanga Yoga, become thoughtless and realize. No, no, no. Bhakti is most important. In the means also bhakti is important, goal also bhakti is important, and beyond that also bhakti is important. Nature of bhakti is different in all the three. That's all. In one is the preparation, purification of the mind. Then when one attains a certain oneness, then there is a certain uh, identification that I and Bhagavan are one. And then after that, Dvaita, once again one continues saying, I am a devoted servant of Bhagavan. Which is why Bhagavan gives 4 devotees classification in 7th chapter of the Gita. Artha, Artharthi, Jignasu and Jnani. Artha is afflicted one who prays to Bhagavan only when there is sorrow or when there is problem. Artharthi, who wants something from Bhagavan, prays only at that time to fulfill desires. Jignasu wants to know who Bhagavan is, what is my sambandha, and also wants to finally attain mukti, Jignasu. But Jnani is one who has already become one with Bhagavan. And that's why he says, Udara sarveva ite jnani tu atmaiva me matam. All are great, no doubt, but Jnani is my own Atma. That Jnani Bhakta is one with Bhagavan. And after that oneness is realized, still that Dvaita will continue. Prarabdha of the body is there, all that explanation we can give. But the person is 100% devoted to Bhagavan. Nobody else is 100% devoted to Bhagavan. Each one has some combination of ego and devotion, less or more, depending on how mature they are in their journey of evolution. But Jnani is the one who is 100% devoted to Bhagavan, and so that is Jnana Uttara Bhakti. And with that, if Bhakta says, I don't even want freedom from birth and death. You just keep me in any form, I am ready to be in that form. I should have remembrance that we are one. That's all. Meaning I should not forget you. That's the point. So that Jnanotar Bhakti, that's why it is called Pancham Purusharth. All right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.